Okay, today we're going to talk a little bit more about like jumping and taking that leap of faith in a way and going for these things that so many of us have pulling or have our attention or have wanted to do and just maybe never could get past the fear or just were unsure because it was change and uncomfortable because we didn't know what the outcome would be. And yet, I'm finding so many more people are finally starting to leap and they're finally starting to go for it. And they're just starting to let go in different ways that have been literally trained into us and straight from a DNA and ancestral aspect of things as well. Like we're talking, down the generations and from years and years and years and years and years ago of all these things that were trained to us and told to us from a society point of view of how we were supposed to be as human. And this is what that looked like. And this is how we were supposed to live. And this is right and this is wrong. And all those things that created fear and created this baseline that so many people got to a point and still do. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's still a good majority of people that don't even want to question why. Why things are the way they are, or why don't we do that? Or who said we had to? Or who made up that rule per se? Who said swear words were bad, right? Who made that a bad word? Who said we couldn't say these things, right? And that's the thing about it is there's so much change happening and it's been such a big shakeup lately that universally and, at a vibrational level, there's being brought forward more of this challenging. I'm willing to question, I'm willing to kind of push the limit and just see and go for these things and these inspiring people that seem to be popping up all over the place. I mean, they always existed. But again, what are you looking for? Right? Because you're going to find whatever it is you're looking for. So, as many of you know, and I have put out the other podcast episode about my polls, the things that were coming up, about putting all my stuff into storage, about how my dog came into my life, all these things. And I'm saying yes to them because I know that they're showing up for a reason. Now, the biggest and toughest thing about that is it's challenging. No matter what, it's challenging. Don't get me wrong. I mean, everybody wants to think I've got it all figured out and that I don't need to learn all these things. Don't get me wrong, I probably can move through it a little easier than maybe some people can. Um, I have chosen to really push myself and do a lot of work and get really good at being okay with being uncomfortable. I have really pushed myself to expand and, not be afraid of my own shadows and to really challenge myself when I am feeling uncomfortable or I am finding I'm trying to resist or avoid. And I'll push myself to really think through why I'm doing those things and to find out what about it. Is it just because I don't want to be uncomfortable or is it just because it's my comfort zone? Those things that as I move along on this journey, obviously they're not showing up, everything. They're not throwing everything at my feet right now. Of course, they're not going to because they know I'd run in the opposite direction. There's only so much anybody can handle. But I have chosen to say yes to these really big things. That first big thing was my dog. Okay. And I know I did explain a little bit of why I started to come to the realization of why she kind of ended up in my life when she did. And one of those things was to actually get me to put all of my stuff into storage. I think back on it and I really realized that there's a high chance I probably would have delayed it or maybe, pushed it out a little farther. Could have said, "Oh, well, you know what? I'll just wait until fall because that's when my lease is up anyway, and I'll just, spend summer here." And I'd push it out. I know I probably would have pushed it out. And so to have my dog and living on a fourth floor apartment building and trying to do potty training and, all those fun things, it really pushed me to be like, yeah, no, being in the RV on the farm is going to be way easier to train a puppy. And not only that, it's more fun for her. She's got the outdoors. She doesn't have to be on a leash all the time. So those were the things that really pushed me into being like, yeah, I'm doing it for her. Okay. And that was like, this is no joke. Like, that's kind of what threw in my head. But this is a common theme for myself, and I recognize that because when I was earlier in my journey and I was working with my mentor and I was moving through these big pieces and all this intense stuff, that I've been hanging on to since literally the time I was a child, my own plus ancestral things, I started to recognize it was really hard for me to say yes for me. I could do it for other people though. I could use that as my motivator, either other people, places, things, something outside of myself. But it gave me a lot of inspiration and motivation to do it because I thought, okay, well, if I can't do it for me right now, that's okay, but I can do it for everybody else. If I can get through the hard things or I can push myself to grow and expand in ways so I can help more people, I want to do that. Right. And so that was really a big motivator for me. And I recognize that as a part of something that was really prominently there even early on in my journey and my own awakening, my first awakening, let's say. So that is actually something that I recognized again with my dog. My dog, LJ, having her as a puppy, I thought, you know what, I can do it for her because I want her to have, a better life and a more fulfilling and growing in a place that has a lot more to give than being stuck kind of in a fourth floor apartment. So that for me was an easy choice, right? But for myself, I know I probably would have pushed it out. So you can see, like, these challenging things will always show up, but it's like, how long are we going to choose to push it out ourselves? Because it's on us, right? We're going to be the ones that are going to delay it, because we are not willing to be uncomfortable. We're not willing to grow, or we're not willing to be that version of ourselves, vibrationally, to bring these things forward. So for me, they knew, my team, I'm talking, and my higher self knew that if I had something else outside of me, that I would likely make these decisions quicker for myself and in saying yes. So I did that, and I recognize that's part of the reason why LJ came into my life when she did, was to help me move in the direction I want to be moving in. Now, here's the other larger thing that I also kept very much in the back of my mind as I was starting to take the actual action and make these decisions at the physical level and starting to do the things, even if they are challenging. Nobody likes to move. It's a lot of work sometimes, but at the same point, I knew, I'm going to tell you, moving this time felt very different. It was, oh, I mean, I technically, the move obviously was very different because we're not literally moving into a whole nother space. I have had my own home since I was in my early 20s. I did live with some roommates for a while, but after that, I never lived with anybody again. I had my own place, my own space for, probably at least 10 years, almost 10 years now. And so I've always had my own home. It's been my own space. I have so thoroughly enjoyed being able to create my own home and evolve that over the years and let that grow with me as I've chosen to grow. And, when I moved from my place into the apartment originally, how much I recognized in myself, my space had changed, and I was really creating something that made me feel really good and something that I really loved, right? And so that was a journey in itself just to even reflect back on, and me understanding that I am really pushing myself outside of my own comfort zone by choosing to put all my stuff into storage. I have never not had my own home. I mean, this is huge for me in certain ways, right? And so the recognition of how uncomfortable I knew it was going to be, but I still said yes. Now, don't get me wrong, I probably took a solid month before I even had a conversation with my mom and dad about coming home for the summer. And it took me a solid month just to even really commit into it and really say yes. But I also recognized that when I had the pull to put everything into storage, and you're waking up at 3 a.m. looking up storage units, the pull's pretty strong. But here's the thing, I didn't think about it too hard. What I did was feel it. I felt it because I knew feeling into it, there was something larger. I always know it's never being brought to me for no reason. And I knew, okay, well, if I'm going to put all my stuff into storage, why do I need the location freedom? What about location freedom is going to bring me closer to the things I'm actually really wanting to experience and manifest into my life? And one of those things was having a place down south outside of winter where I don't have to ever deal with snow again if I don't want to. And the recognition that if I always had a place in Canada, because don't get me wrong, I still want a place in Canada for my family to gather as well and to be closer, in certain times because Canada's nice in the summer. But it was one of those things that I recognized that if I always had a place in Canada, I would never give myself enough time to actually go and explore and actually go and do some things and explore some places to find out where I really am being pulled to be, to build my next home, right? And for me, I want to be down south first because the recognition after I put everything into storage, I thought, you know what? My mom and dad's place, and I'm in their big, beautiful RV. out on their land, just far enough away from the house. I feel, it's great. I feel like we really do have our own space out here. Um, it's just my mom and dad in the house now. There's, my brother is gone, and so it's quiet to the extent, and there's a lot of respect and, them knowing that this is really my space. And so it's been really good that way, and we've been here for, I guess, almost a couple weeks now. But the recognition of like that journey piece of it, and I'm going to get to the synchronistic parts of this because you guys are probably going to laugh when you start to realize. I'll talk a little bit more about some of my struggles too and some of the challenging pieces. But the thing about that too is I want you guys to remember that this for me is very different. I wouldn't say it's so challenging as it is for the perspective and mindset that I have now around my own challenge. Um it's very different. It doesn't feel big and like a problem, if that makes sense to you. It feels more like this challenging growth, but it's not the same kind of challenge as, I'd say it's probably like they just kind of gave me an analogy of more like if you're playing a game and it feels like the game's kind of challenging, but it's almost like a puzzle in its own right, but you know that you're going to have the solution, and that if you just breathe and take your time, it just all comes together. And that's exactly what this kind of feels more like to me in this type of growth this time, because I am choosing to purposely be very aware if I have any resistance, because then I just work through it rather than trying to avoid it or put it off. So being here has allowed me to understand location freedom is really important for me to actually have, because now I will allow myself to go and do whatever it is, spend as much time as I want to spend to find where I want to be. And that's really exciting for me because that really, really, really made me realize how much closer I actually am to doing and finding this place, be it Mexico or Costa Rica or whatever it ends up being, that is so much closer than I even actually thought probably in my head it was. So it goes to show you how exciting it is when you actually take the leap and you run with these poles that are so prominently there. Now, I've had some people also say to me, I don't understand how you can just put everything into storage and not know where you're going yet. But that's the really fun part for me, is like I don't need to know, because I know that the ideas and the understanding of where I will be going will be brought to me. And it will align and it will work, because so far everything else has. So why wouldn't it, why can't I have faith in something like that? But to have faith in the unknown is almost unheard of. It is the extreme of the extreme where so many people cannot even wrap their heads around having a belief in the unknown like I do. And don't get me wrong, you would have asked me if I believed in the unknown like I do today, even 4 years ago, I probably would have laughed at you. Because the unknown scared the shit out of me back then too, right? Because that's all how we're kind of trained to be, until you start to take back your own inner power and you recognize the shadows, that you can walk with all of it. It doesn't need to be this scary thing. Do I trust my gut instinct to know if like I'm truly in danger and I'm going to fall off the edge of a cliff? Yeah, sure. Of course I do. But I'm also probably not going to put myself in situations to be next to a cliff like that, because I don't really care to, right? But that's the thing, is like taking the leap, you will only ever find more of yourself. And to be honest with you, your dreams will probably come true so much faster than you probably even thought they could, because you already are putting out an intention and alignment of a vision that you're wanting to have a true experience with in the physical 3D. Now, the thing is a lot of people say to me, well, I would just want to be there. I don't want to do all the in between. Well, if you didn't have to do the in between, you'd already be there. The in between is the process of who you need to be at a vibrational set point to match what you are actually asking for. And until you believe it's already happening and that it already exists, even if you haven't actually physically had the interaction with it yet, it doesn't mean that it's not already in existence, because it is. If you can imagine it, it already exists somewhere. And I mean, that's a whole nother topic for another time. But at this point, where I'm at with, here I am for, summer, maybe into early fall. And still, I don't have any full ideas yet of where I'm going. But yeah, I'm okay with that. There have been a few things that have popped in, that have definitely had me kind of searching, Airbnb in certain places, just getting excited about certain things again. And just that knowing we can just up and go wherever we wanted to go is really fun and exciting for me. My other worry though was, why am I getting this dog when I'm going to have all this location freedom and I might want to be like traveling for a while? Like, what am I going to do with her if she can't come with me? And like almost guilt, right? Of guilt of, why did she come into my life if, you know, I might have to leave her behind at certain points in time or all these things. But that was also, again, for me to recognize and understand that I'm guilt tripping myself because I feel as though I need to be with this dog 24/7. And for the most part, I know she will be able to travel with me and I know that she will be able to come to the places with me. But there was also this aspect of this real resistance I was finding in myself when it came to possibly leaving her behind or having to leave her with my mom and dad if that worked out or, taking her here or there. But then I also realized that she's also not just here for me. She's come into my life because there's certain people in my life or people that I'll meet or whatever it might be that she's also meant to be a part of their journeys in certain ways. She's an incredible little dog. I mean, I've never had a puppy that has um had the type of intelligence and like almost this incredible sense about her. Like she's not just a dog, let me just put it that way. And I'm not the only one to say that. Many of my intuitive friends have seen pictures and said the exact same thing. She's not just a dog. And I mean, again, I didn't actually choose at a human level to bring her in. I was brought, all through meditation. And that's on the other podcast that I talked about that already. And so she has been brought to me in these ways. And all I did was say yes to it because I knew that there was for some other reason, right? And I worked through my own shit at the human level to discover what that is. And it's only helping me learn more about myself. But at the same time, I know it's also accelerating my path of where I actually want to be or what I want to experience. So this is why I'm telling you guys taking the leap, even if it feels like the most scary thing in the world and you don't have the whole picture figured out and you don't know what the whole process is, doesn't mean it's going to be a complete bum and failure. Because failure only happens if you think that it can't work out to the expectations that you already have. That's it. you know? So even for me, so the synchronistic things that have happened since I have chosen not only just to get my dog, but to put all my stuff into storage and everything so far that's happened in between has been crazy energetically lined up. And I've still to this day feel extremely supported. And I feel as though, I feel like I'm making these moves and they're trying to tell me like how much they're still walking with me and that, this is the right thing for me to be doing. Because of course I've had days where I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? Like I think I'm making a crazy, crazy decision and I'm not sure if I should continue to do this. I've woken up some days already feeling like that, even in the last couple of weeks and just those little things. But again, that's my own resistance because it's uncomfortable for me. This is a very, very big push outside of anything I've ever really done, even especially in my adult life of not having my own, place. So, of course, there will be things that come up, but the incredible synchronistic things that have happened are wild. So, I used to get massive amounts of deja vu when I was a kid, massive amounts. And like, I'm sure everybody's experienced deja vu to certain degrees. But for most people, it's like a quick little snippet or a couple seconds. You're like, woo, there's some deja vu. Like, I really feel like that's happened before. I've seen that before. I've said that before. I've literally watched this all play out. Now, that's the deja vu I'm talking about. I used to get a lot when I was a kid. Now, the deja vu that I've had since making these decisions and putting all this into action and running with this, oh my God, the deja vu is like, it lasts so long where I'm almost thinking like, like I literally have time to think this is crazy. It's still going on. And we're talking like minutes. I mean, I've had full-blown conversation. One of those conversations was with my brother, my little brother, when he was just home. And we were sitting on the deck and we're talking and like all of a sudden, boom, deja vu, right? And it's like lasted so long. It was wild. Okay. Now that's happened multiple times since I've gotten here. Crazy long amounts of deja vu. I've also had crazy things of just like things just instantaneously lining up. So going places, finding parking, like we were just in the city again, for LJ's appointment the other day and finding parking. It was crazy busy there that day. And I don't even know why, to be honest with you. It's not like anything was going on that I knew of, but it was wildly busy. And we went to the store and I'm thinking, okay, well, we got to find parking. And I was like, oh, it's so busy. I don't know if we're going to find it. And I just thought to myself, no, we'll find parking and we're going to find it close by too. Sure shit. I happened to look over and here, pulls up this one guy and I'm like, oh, look at that perfect parking spot. And Mom's like, oh, well, that was lucky, and here I'm laughing though, because I know it's not luck. I know it's still the synchronistic lining up, and it's happens almost on a daily basis right now. The birds out here at the farm, like especially the goldfinches, and I don't know if you're not familiar with the little goldfinch, they're just a very small, bright. The males are bright yellow. They're very beautiful little birds. Um, and this deep association with my grandma, definitely with goldfinches, but wildly, like, LJ almost went right up nose to nose with one on the ground the other day. Like, just the craziest things that don't seem, like, natural are happening, and it's been ongoing since I've gotten here. I have had so there's the parking ticket thing, which is hilarious. Whole 'nother story in itself, but long story short, I got this stupid parking ticket back in January because they were cleaning, they had to do snow removal in the parking lot of the apartment, and I forgot to move my car that morning. And so my lovely site manager, she was a wonderful lady. She calls me and she said, "Are you able to move your car?" So yep, I moved my car, but I end up parking it behind our building, which I had no idea apparently that they labeled this as a back alley. It's completely paved. It's more than enough room for two cars to go by. Like, you would never assume it was a back alley in my mind. So I parked back there. There was 8 other vehicles back there too, thinking no big deal. Well, I went to go move my car back, and there's a bloody parking ticket on there. So right away I thought, "No, I'm gonna appeal this," because, like, they're asking, it was a $50 ticket, I think. And I thought, "No, this is just crazy." Like, I didn't know, for one, and plus I did drive around looking for parking. It was all full, on the street parking, because obviously this apartment building is big. I mean, everybody's vehicles are on the streets already. So anyway, that was that. I appealed it. I didn't hear anything back from it, and I thought, "Okay, well, we'll give it a few days." Finally heard back. They said they'll send me a letter with a court date or something ridiculous. So I never actually received any kind of letter. The next letter I got was this letter of conviction. And I thought, what the hell is this about? Like, so I thought that's kind of unfair. Now, this is where most people would be like, well, screw it. I'm just going to pay it. I don't want to deal with this anymore. I don't want to deal with the systems, because I understand that those systems can be a lot to deal with. They can be a massive headache. It's never been, usually easy to deal with that kind of stuff. So again, here, knowing those things are often, kind of complicated for a reason, because they don't really want people to appeal stuff like that, because a lot of times people do have good reason, or they win them, or they get them down next to nothing, right? But now this letter of conviction says that I owe $70 because they had put a late fee on top of it too. And I thought, no, I'm going to do something about this, because I don't think it's very fair at the fact that I literally didn't even get a letter telling me the date of the court date or anything, right? So I figured it all out. I did my research, but something inside of me still kept saying, go ahead and do it. Because again, I thought, should I just pay this and be done with it? I'm going back to Saskatchewan. Like, I don't want this to be an issue. And I recognized, no, okay, like, I think I'm supposed to continue pushing this. So I did. I sent in this little application thing. I had no idea if I did it right. And a few days later, I guess it was more than a few days. It was probably closer to probably a week, actually. I actually kind of even forgot about it because I did it right before I put all my stuff into storage. And so, that first week was such a blur between doing everything and whatnot. And next thing you know, I got this email that comes through, again, part of the synchronistic things, that says, "We got your application. We've put the fine down to $20 only simply because you did say that you would plead guilty." And I had, because I thought that would just be the easiest way of going about getting rid of it. So now it went down to $20. Okay, so it went from 50 original up to 70 because they, put that late fee on it, and then it went all the way down to 20. So again, it just, like, I was shocked when I saw that email come through, because I thought, I didn't even know if I did the friggin' application thing right, but here we go. It's just lining up one thing after another. The more I hold faith and just continue to do things, even if it makes no fucking logical sense, okay? I'm still doing them because I am more trusting in the feeling of it than my logical thinking about certain things when it comes to taking action on stuff, right? Weighing pros and cons gets us nowhere. Because if you tried to weigh pros and cons on putting all your stuff into storage and you don't have any of the in between, how do you think that's going to look? Your pro list is going to be next to nothing, right? And so, of course, most people don't do that because they don't know what is the in between. But that's the thing. We're not supposed to know. The universe can get us there faster in frequency if we're willing to follow that than trying to put it in a logical sense where it makes sense to do that, right? Because honest to God, let's talk, if we want to talk logic for one hot second about my entire situation, If I want to talk logic, and as I mentioned, I want a place down south, right? So if we were going to go logically, this is how most people would probably want to do it. Okay, well, I'll have my place here. I'll save up enough money. Then I'll go look for the place. Then I'll find, where we want to be. And then we'll buy the place. And then I'll get the dog, because then I'll have this place. You know how long that probably would take somebody? It's not that you couldn't probably do it that way. Of course you can. But the amount of time that it would probably have taken me, if that's like the logical aspect, I would say it probably take me another 5 years, right? Because for me to save up all the money and to do all the things, but like, again, logically, I'm putting an expectation of what I needed it to look like by doing it that way. Now, did I originally ever really do it that way? No, not really, because I had done some different thought process and mindset shifts since then. But if you had asked me even 4 or 5 years ago, like, that would have been my plan. It would have been, this is what I'm going to do. Granted, I still had my other dog at that point, but like, it would have been, I know she's getting older. She's not going to be here forever. She probably won't ever see that property. Like, those are the things. That's how my brain would have logically put it into place, because that's how we were told, like, figure out the plan, right? How many times have we even heard that? Figure out your plan. No, figure out your frequency. How about figure out what you need to feel in order to actually bring that into your life? What do you actually need to fucking believe, for one? Do I need to believe that I have to pay for it all myself? Nope, sure don't. Don't care how it ends up in my possession or what I'm doing or how it works out. I want to be there with full total control of freedom of, what I want to do on that property, or, how I want to use it or what it looks like. So I have specifications of my vision of what I want that to be. Do I need to outright own it myself? No, absolutely not. And that was the craziest part, that was super cool for me, was when I decided I didn't need to outright own it myself and me alone. All of a sudden, my mom and dad were like, hey, you know what? Well, we may want to pitch in if it's like a vacation home for us. Then I had my uncle being like, hey, you know what? I'd probably be in on it too. You know what I mean? So like, already took that limitation of being like, oh yeah, well, if I don't have to fully own it myself, what does that look like? And then all of a sudden, my family's being like, I'm in, right? I'm like, holy shit, that's really exciting. Look how much faster that could happen. So you have the vision, but just don't put limitations on it. And then when these things show up, like, that might feel super uncomfortable or don't logically seem to make sense, but you can't shake them, and this idea is just like gnawing at you from the inside, that is literally your higher self telling you, look, we're standing on the hill, you're down in the valley, you've now put out an intention and a vision and a dream that we're trying to help you get to in a very quick way that we know is going to get you there the fastest. But is it probably going to be the easiest? Probably not. And it's probably not, it's never going to be the most comfortable either, right? But the crazy part is when we want to stay in our comfort zones, we actually end up more miserable than if we were just to push ourselves, get out of our comfort zones. Because when you're in the uncomfortable, and you start to force yourself to be like, you know what? I'm staying here because I know that there's more growth here than me trying to do it through a comfort zone and only putting my toe in the water rather than just full on jumping in up to my waist, right? And when you do that, your brain stops fighting you after a while, because when it recognizes, hey, everything we're doing is not getting her to go back, maybe we should just start adapting to what's actually going on here. And then you move through it so much faster than you even thought you could. And so your entire momentum of energy also starts to move that much faster. So who wouldn't want that? So I am telling you, if you have big dreams or things that have been pulling at you, even if it's just, it feels like small. I'm not asking you to go jumping off the cliff like I did and put all your stuff in storage. I mean, this is my journey. This is what it's mine and mine alone. I'm not telling everybody else to just go and do those things. But if it's a pull for you, or has been, or you've had this idea for years, or something, that's been nagging in the back of your head for how long, and this quiet whisper that you've been totally ignoring because fear's been holding you back from not knowing the whole picture, I am telling you, right where we are right now in our world at this point in time, there's no better time to actually go for it. And I say that, I mean, obviously you're going to hear people want to say that all the time, right? There's no better time than now. Just go for it. But I am telling you, the frequency of where we're at is truly in your favor if you choose to jump with it and run with these things that are exciting for your soul. Because it is a time of now. If you wait 10 years, okay, that's part of your journey. But I am telling you, it's probably going to be harder in 10 years than if you were just to do it now, because there's less going on inside of you now than there might be in 10 years, right? Less things that might be holding you back and easier to work through now than it might be in 10 years. It could be even just the smaller things, right? Less things that might be holding you back and easier to work through now than it might be in 10 years. It could be even just the smaller things, right? You wanted to take a course, or you wanted to change a job, or do something different in those aspects and go for something a little bit different than maybe you've ever done before, or try something new. Maybe there's an activity or hobby that you've just been like drawn to or fascinated by, and yet you've never taken any action on actually giving it a try. I'm telling you, even those little things are fantastic to jump on and just go for right now. They just said something to me too. Remember that we will only present you with the things that are on the smaller scale, because until you prove to us and yourself that you will take action, you will do the things, we will never bring you something larger. Because if we were to drop the entire cake on your plate right now, you would look at us and say, that's way too much cake. What are you doing? And you'd walk away. So we always start small, and we give ourselves enough proof and enough action. And then next thing you know, you're going to be, taking those bigger leaps and taking those bigger actions, and you're not going to want to completely run away from them, because you understand and know that it will work out for you in the end, no matter what that looks like, no matter what the growth it takes, no matter what it might take to move through things. You look at it in an aspect of, no matter what, this will always in benefit for me somehow. And it will. Even in the most challenging times, it will. So my grandma's 1-year anniversary since she's passed just went by. And my mom, that was actually the weekend I moved here, now that I'm thinking about it. The weekend I moved into the RV was the same weekend that was my 1 year for my grandma. And no matter how many times people might say, oh, well, you're a medium, that must be like easy for you. There's always still the human aspect, right? I still feel for my mom. My mom doesn't have quite the same understanding that I do. She doesn't know to the same levels that, as much as I have helped her and, move through, she's still on her own journey, right? So, of course, I still feel for my mom. And so, we're laughing and having tears at the same time, because here I am moving. And my mom says to me, of course you are, on this weekend, that is 1 year from my grandma's passing. It's just, again, synchronistic things too at the same time, right? Because I could feel my grandma was so present with me while I was moving. It was so funny. And the other thing too is they want me to talk to you real fast about the flowers, my orchid plant. Super funny story that goes along with that as well. But you can see, like, as I'm hopefully telling you my story, and parts of it hopefully will resonate with you, and parts of it that you can take that inspiration for yourself and go for it. Because I am telling you, the only thing you'll ever regret is not going for it, to be honest with you. So the other quick thing I'll add to this, to go along with all of this crazy story, is the orchid. So I have this orchid plant. It was given to me as a gift from actually one of the shows that I was leaving from, a psychic fair. She's unable to bring it with her. She was going to be in the car for too long, and she knew it basically wasn't going to survive. Now, it was beautifully in bloom. I mean, the flowers on that thing last forever. They're gorgeous. I loved it. I thought, oh, wow, it'd be so cool to have this orchid plant. And here I'm just praying that I'd know how to keep it alive at that point. And so I brought it home, and that thing did not bloom again forever. Like, it did not bloom. It was the same. So if I'm trying to remember exactly, but anyway, so it was in that first bloom. I believe I had moved at that point as well in that year. Later in that year, I believe, is when I moved to the apartment. And then it never bloomed again. Okay. Never bloomed again, guys. And I'm thinking I did something wrong. And I'm looking into Google. I'm trying to find everything I can to figure out what the hell I'm doing to this plant, that it won't bloom again. And I'm thinking, I don't know. I'm reading people are saying it's supposed to bloom at least once a year, if not twice a year sometimes. I was having absolutely zero luck with this thing. Now, the only thing I knew that it was still doing okay was because, one, it kept spurting new leaves. So I'm like, okay, well, it's still growing new leaves and it's growing air roots. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, it's not dying. I guess maybe in the end, I'll maybe just have this leafy plant if it never blooms orchids ever again. And here was the wildest thing. I want to say probably within a week or two after I committed to the idea. Okay, I committed to the idea of moving my stuff into storage. That bad boy bloomed again. And we're talking, it hadn't bloomed in probably, by that point, almost 2 years. And so it bloomed again. And it's still in bloom. It made the trip. It is sitting here in bloom once more. It's just wildly amazing to me at the same point, again, of a synchronistic thing, that it bloomed the year I moved the last time, and now it's bloomed again the year that I have chosen to make another move and to do some larger things. So understand and know this is part of that magic. It's part of the synchronistic level of connection in my mind, and that plant, I am telling you, is somehow connected into the synchronistic frequency of change because that bad boy bloomed. So anyway, here it is. It's sitting bloomed. I can see it right now, and it's exciting again to me because it's again a synchronistic thing for myself as validation to keep going, and that I am not doing this journey alone, and that I am getting to walk these paths in my own way, but at the same time, really trusting. And you know what? It's actually a lot less stressful when I know everything's being brought to me and all I got to do is say yes to it. It's more stressful to think that I'm the one who's got to figure it all out. And I know that I'm not, because I know that these ideas are coming from my higher place of myself, particularly. And that if I can trust in that part of myself more and ask that to be an integration more, the less I need to do as actual human in trying to figure out the physical 3D world, because the ideas all have to be brought from somewhere else anyway. Physical 3D is as dense as you get. It doesn't start here. It starts from somewhere else. So take this pressure off yourselves in trying to figure it all out and just go for it. Even if people say you're crazy, it's not a part of their journey. It's not for them. The idea was, if it was the idea was meant for them, they would have it themselves, right? The idea is yours and yours alone. Be careful who you share your dreams with too, because there will be a lot of people out there that's going to want to shit on them. Share them with the people that you know will support you, and then just move through life in the way that you want to move in your life. And I am telling you, magical shit happens when you do that. I'm not saying you got to go off the rocker, like I said, but even just the small things can bring you a lot of joy and a lot of understanding of how things can actually work here. So I wish you all the absolute best in the rest of summer. I hope you all have fantastic July. And I hope that if you have any questions or any topics or anything that you're curious about knowing, or if you have questions for me, please comment on here or send me a message. We also have, I've got digital courses and I've got stuff that I offer, and that's going to still obviously be a continued thing as my journey continues. So if any of that's interesting for you, I've got links below in the description. Also got community if you're interested in joining us in community. All the details are in the description below. So if any of that's an interest for you, go find that, hit the subscribe button, and thank you for being here.